What's up, everyone? We are live right now on Cannabis, and we have a special episode for you today. This is a new little special episode that we're going to do to talk about the Emerald Cup. It's a festival in Northern California coming up in just a couple weeks here in the middle of August in Oakland, California. It's a Saturday, Sunday event, so if you have the time, come out on the weekend. We're going to have our own booth there at the Emerald Cup, but it's not just us there. There's growers from all over California, all over the West Coast, but especially Northern California, and especially those organic outdoor and light depth growers there, especially at this event. So it's a really cool way to tap into those legacy growers, people that have been doing this for decades, folks that are growing some really interesting genetics, but as well as grows and companies all up and down the state. They're entering in their flower, they're entering in their vapes, they're entering in their pre-rolls, their edibles, all their different products into this competition that is known as basically the competition of California, if not the West Coast. So folks are entering in their products, and you get to see kind of all these people intermingling, as well as just the public hanging out and enjoying the show, enjoying connecting with everyone. And also there's live performances from different rappers this year. There's different music artists, comedians, all sorts of stuff. So anyways, that's all coming up, and we're going to be talking about it because we've got a booth there at the show. JR connected with the team over at the Emerald Cup, and they hooked us up with a nice deal for a booth, and we're going to be doing interviews at the show. We're going to be walking around the show and hitting up folks for a quick interview, and we might even be able to do some live streamed interviews from the booth there to our YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'll stop rambling. JR, I know you're really excited about this Emerald Cup. What's this one mean to you?
It means a lot. It's kind of like the premier event. If you want to get access to breeders, you want to get access to genetics. And I would say not only just from California, I mean, people, like in-house all the way from Seattle down to San Diego. I mean, people from all up and down the West Coast kind of congregate to this event because it's an open event. Back in the day, it was super open. I mean, it was free market 100%. But now over time, with regulations and changes, which we'll talk a little bit about that in the future, it's changed. But the essence of the spirit of us all getting together and communing is still there. And there's still some element of free enterprise. I mean, there'll be guys showing up with cases of beautiful glass, and they'll just bust it open, and you'll have a chance to maybe pick up something super amazing. Hash as well. There's a lot of guys who'll be going around with some amazing rosin that you can pick up as well. So it is still an element of freedom, and I'm super happy that it's in Oakland. And we kind of did a little touch on cannabis earlier with one of the posts I did about the history of Oakland and what it's been to the cannabis community, because it has been kind of the Bay Area and Oakland have been an epicenter, and Oakland has been kind of a refuge. You can breathe a little bit there in the community where you're trying to, build your brand, or maybe hustle and pay your bills. Those communities are much more supportive to our community. And so we had a little bit of problems with the feds moving in and taking down Oaksterdam, because that was a powerful movement for education and activism. And that's the other point that I brought up, is that Oakland has been a center of activism for not just cannabis, but for humanity as a whole. And so I feel honored to be a part of the Emerald Cup, and I'm really excited that it's in Oakland. And I've never got to really vibe in Oakland more than just passing through an airport. So I'm excited to be there and check it all out.
Yeah, it's at the it's going to be in the Lake Merritt area. So for folks that aren't familiar, there's this little lake in the middle of Oakland, and it's a really pretty area all around there. And so there's this event center. It's called like the Kaiser Center, that they're having this event in. I'm going to put the graphic back up on the screen for folks to see. Yeah, the Henry Kaiser Center for the Arts. So it's going to be right there in Lake Merritt. So, and it should be, beautiful weather, I'm sure. So it's if it might be especially warm, we'll see. It's kind of been a warm year all around. But anyways, it's going to be really nice outside. And that part of Oakland is beautiful. We're going to be, it's also right next door to Alameda, which is a nice part of Oakland. So if you're kind of looking for stuff to do, that might be fun for folks to check out. But I'm really excited for it to be so close to this part of the Bay Area, because in previous years, up till now, basically, the Emerald Cup has been very much in the northern part of Northern California. So before this, it's been in Santa Rosa for several years. If you're not familiar with the geography, that's basically like an hour and a half-ish north of San Francisco. So it's a little bit of a trek. It's not something that you just fly into SF and you can go to the Emerald Cup real quick. You had to make a trek up to Santa Rosa. And then even before that, it was even farther north, up in Area 51, I think, or Area 101, I think is what they called it, up in like the Ukiah, Mendo, Humboldt area. So it's very much been a part of Northern California. But now it's coming down to the Bay Area, and it can really connect into the local scenes here in the Bay Area. So if someone lives in San Francisco or they live in Oakland, they can just hop on the public transit system and go check out the Emerald Cup. So I'm excited about that. I'm just kind of curious to see what kind of normies or just people that aren't real steeped in the scene. Now that the event's a little bit more accessible to people, I'm kind of curious to see who goes to the Emerald Cup this year.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because I think it was for a lot of us, it was a financial barrier. Like if I didn't have the support of the Dude Grows crew to get me there those early years, well, not early to the event, but early to me, I wouldn't have been able to afford, because it's kind of expensive there, finding a spot, renting the car, all flying in. And this was before Santa Rosa had that little beautiful airport that they have now. I feel bad, they finally get this awesome little airport that you could just direct flight into. But now we're not. And it is very beautiful up there. I would say driving from the Bay Area up to Santa Rosa was a gorgeous, gorgeous drive. But I am excited. I'm so excited for it to just be open. And I think it might even open it up more to the United States as a whole. You know what I mean? I think people might be more into just flying to Oakland or fly into the Bay, grab a spot, transit in, like you said, on the, the BART or whatever?
Yeah, the subway,
and just
the BART, yeah.
Yeah, and just enjoy a good time and a good cultural event. And the thing I want to say, too, about it being a cultural event is, there's food, music, art, seminars, booths of every kind. So there's so much visually to see and be a part of.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start there real quick too, as we are, continuing to kind of give people an idea of what the Emerald Cup is. If you've never been, basically the setup is, so you're going to have, several buildings that are going to have, various vendors, and they usually kind of have them grouped by type of vendor, basically. So there's the room where there's a lot of the breeders are in there, and the breeders might be also selling clones. That's one of the cool things too, is a lot of the tents there, or the vendors, they'll be selling seeds, and maybe they'll even let big name breeders sell out, or sell through their booth, basically sell through their license. So you'll see Cap, the guy who made the Mac, you often see Cap there there selling through some booth, and sometimes that same company will be selling clones of their stuff. So there's like very limited drops essentially that happen at the Emerald Cup every year from a lot of these big name breeders. This is one of the few shows that they might show up to in person or have special drops at. So if people that are really into seed collecting go to the Emerald Cup often, and you'll see them spend quite a bit of money getting all these like limited drops. Obviously, like the cookies guys, obviously, they always do drops, but there's a lot of other really cool breeders that drop strains. I remember Emerald Cup was probably one of the first times I saw Freak Show in person, because the Humboldt Seed Organization, I think that's what the one, Humboldt, they're the breeders of that, or like distributors of that, so they had it there. And then I think even last year they had clones of it, which was cool. So it's also really cool to see people, you get access to kind of like newer stuff before it goes mainstream, which is kind of cool to see too.
Which is kind of like the whole vibe of that epicenter kind of thing. Is like a lot of the innovation in breeding and rosin tech, all of that stuff kind of culminates in some of these events, and it kind of pushes out. And now that we're having a lot of the East Coast come online, and they're throwing their local events, and they're throwing their parties, and they're getting down, and they're pushing the envelope of growing. And like we just had Polly, for the East Coast glass blowers,
Right.
Just that whole thing. I like to see that open up and see that just push things even further, so that we just kind of all meet in the middle with innovation and access. And that's the thing that's cool, is like you said, we have at that event, there's breeders there that just walk the event, and you can get access to those guys. You can walk up to them, shake their hand, talk to them, and a lot of times, those guys are willing to work with you if you're a good and dedicated grower who's looking to maybe be a tester, or sometimes they might even just throw you a pack just to be generous.
That is one cool thing I found. Like, more often than not, people are pretty cool in person when you talk to them. And, when you deal with folks only online, it's very hard to get in touch with people, especially with these folks that, they have tens of thousands of Instagram followers. They probably had to turn off their Instagram DMs anyways to get their account not blocked or whatever. So it's like very hard to get a hold of these people. But when you meet them in person, they're very easy to talk to. Like, I remember JR, you met like the founder of, or like the owner of the vape company. I forget what they were called, at one of their booths. I at one of these events, I met the guy behind Preferred Gardens, which they've been making a name for themselves. They're like an indoor grower here in NorCal, but they're also going really big in Florida. I met, I've met a lot of other growers like Ridgeline Farms, Johnny from Huckleberry Hill Farms. I've gotten to hang out with at Emerald Cup. And so it gives us a chance to build relationships with these people that, we were talking to Johnny before, Bert Kreischer discovered him, and all of a sudden Johnny's on these like shows
blowing up.
What I mean? And so it's really cool that we're able to connect with these growers, and you get to have a quick conversation with them. When we were, what was it, a couple episodes ago, we were talking to a breeder, and he was talking about how much he loved, it was a Super Seed Co. He was talking about how he loves people coming up to him and showing him stuff that they've grown from his genetics. You get to see those sorts of things, or even just those stories where you get to, go up to that grower that breeds the strain that you've grown, and you get to tell them, your story. It's just really cool.
That actually is what put us in the position to get our first sponsor, TikiMadMan. I showed up to that Emerald Cup and was fortunate enough to hang out at his after party that he threw. And me and him and Uncle Jim and you just sat at a picnic table and burned down. And I was able to show him my cherry paloma and that jelly donuts that I was doing at the time. And he was so impressed with it that he ended up hitting me up asking for a cut of the jelly donuts. And so that kind of opened up that whole avenue of conversation for us. And that was just us showing up with a killer jar of weed Right. Showing up to a party with some chronic weed that we grew,
That's
you know,
so
and
rad.
so there's opportunities like that, I think, a
All over.
lot at the Emerald Cup. I mean, there's a lot of heavy dudes that walk that event. And a lot of cool people show up for the entertainment aspect of it too. Last year we was E40, I believe it was,
Yeah.
and I got Uncle Jim up front for E40, and that was hilarious, man. You know, it was a good time. I had such a good time with him. I like dragging him all over the United States to these events. He's going to be working the booth. Him and Jake the Ripper are going to be working the table for us. And we're going to have all kinds of cool stuff to give away for signups. And just we got some fun stuff in store.
Yeah, I've got a box full of stuff right here. The camera's blurring it out, but I've got a box full of seeds here from NeptuneSeedbank. Really cool. Like he spent some money on these bags. These aren't
Yeah,
cheap. To make
right.
these bags. So really cool. This is the golden sherbet. We'll be giving
Mm-hmm.
away some of these at the show. I've got stuff from our friends at SacredThreeMushrooms. So Tanazi sent me some swag to give away from them, and we even have some spores that we could probably hook up some
Yep.
people with. So there's going to be some things going around. So definitely
Mm-hmm.
stop by the booth. You'll also I've got these like signs made to promote the podcast, which I'm excited about.
Yeah.
So it should be fun. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, because we got sidetracked on just the breeder and the growing aspect. Of course, if
Yeah.
you just want to smoke or enjoy some ganja, it's also a great show for that. So you'll see basically the way it works, obviously, since it's a legal situation now, basically there's you'll often see kind of like distributors represent a group of growers. So like we'll probably see, I would imagine, see a booth for Redwood Roots, which we've had him on the show, Chris. That was a great episode, by the way. I think people
Yeah.
should check that one out. We'll have Redwood, they'll probably have a booth, and then they'll be representing, like Ridgeline Farms and representing Sticky Fields and representing Huckleberry Hill Farms. And so there's going to be booths like that set up. So highly encourage people to check those out. If they're at the show this year, check out Heritage Mendocino, I believe is their name. The Heritage booth is where you'll find some really great hash. So they have their own hash lab, basically in their dispensary up in Ukiah, I believe is where they're at. And what's really cool is their hash maker studied under Frenchie, and she's like the preeminent expert, basically. So if you go to their booth and check out their temple balls, check out their hash, you're checking out some of the best hash in the world. And the people that make it are just hanging out. And it's not like they're holding up a sign that says like, I'm a big fucking deal or whatever. They're just normal people trying to sell the hash that they made. So you can go up and talk to them and ask them questions and things like that. So that's one of the cool opportunities that I think is out for folks. There's also some grow kind of related companies there. So there might be some soil companies, there might be some like grow manufacturing equipment. There's not probably as much as there was back in 2018 2019 when we were going to the show, but there is going to be a bit of that as well. So if you're a grow nerd, which I know many of our fans are, including us as well, there's some of that at the show as well. But and I almost forgot, you mentioned a little bit ago, there's like seminars. There's also a lot of talks at the show. So you can go and check out and hear some of these, amazing regenerative farmers give a talk on a panel, or maybe there's like, some famous person there that can talk about policy issues or talk about, building a brand or whatever it is. They're going to be speaking on panels there.
And we can talk about some of the folks in the past who have done some of the speaking there. Frenchie Cannoli would often have speaking engagements where he would do demonstrations. There were a lot of people who would come up and give up their time teaching people about, soil interactions with microbes. all of the stuff that kind of progresses that that diversified regenerative type farming. But then on the other side of it, there was some of the other cutting edge sciences and lighting and all of that too. So I'd say that the industry as a whole is pretty well represented in those seminars. And I kind of like the way I noticed the way they laid out is that the kind of inner part of the event, because it's kind of indoor outdoor, so you can have a consumption event, but the indoor part of the event is a good consolidation of also industry as well. So you'll be able to talk to some of the soil folks. I'm sure Extreme Gardens will be there with the Azos and the Mycos, and all those good folks will be there, and you can learn a lot. I mean, they're willing to give you their time. And not only that, a lot of them are willing to give you their contact information so that you can do follow-ups for purchasing or just getting like more information.
Yeah, wait. So let's hit on the awards part of the show. So
Yeah.
So the like basically every part of the cannabis industry, this show has been going through its own growing pains and just struggles over the last few years, coming out of the pandemic and then kind of the economic downturn that the cannabis industry has been in. I'm sure it hasn't been easy for these guys. So I think this is going to be, an important year for them. I'm really hoping that it goes well. Them moving to Oakland, because I think, like you were talking about earlier, I think this is like the start of something really cool. If this can really pop off and people come to know that, yeah, all you need to do is just fly into Oakland, fly into SFO, hop on the subway or whatever, and you can go to one of the best weed festivals in the world. That's going to be really rad. And so an important part of the Emerald Cup is the cup aspect. And I think by them moving it to later in the year, usually this show is every year in December. They moved it to August. And I know people are kind of questioning that. But I think one of the good things about it is it actually allowed them to open up the window for people to enter in their products into the judging. And it also obviously gives them time to go through rigorous judging process. But essentially, they've set up all sorts of different categories. I mentioned at the top, there's going to be categories for edibles, categories for vapes, categories for flower, different types of flower. There's light depth, there's fully outdoor, full term, there's all these different categories, and they take this stuff really seriously. These are people that, Tim Blake and his family that run this thing, they're part of the community, right? And they don't want to fuck this up, right? They take this pretty seriously, and they have, some of the best outdoor growers, best people in their various parts of the industry, working with them to create these kind of judging categories and judging processes. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up, I guess, because I think a lot of people, when we talk about cups, maybe when we talked about High Times cups or whatever of past, people basically often just suspect that the judging is bullshit and whoever, spent the most money on sponsorships wins or whatever. But I feel like you could say pretty confidently that the Emerald Cup tries to make this as objective as possible, and they find judges in these various categories. We've had I forget what his name is, from the Weed History podcast. I remember we had him on the show, and he was the edible, one of the edible judges.
Yeah.
So they find these various people in the industry, and they send them basically a whole pack of stuff. So a whole, jars and jars and jars of flour, or all the, different pre-rolls or edibles or whatever it is. They send them out to a bunch of different judges, and they have, a judging system and judging criteria that they have to abide by. And so I think, the results at the end, they're indicative of quality. And so that's really, people really take this stuff seriously. And, it helps put a lot of these guys on the map. So like
It does.
we've mentioned Ridgeline Farms, his Lance has won,
Yeah.
various places. I remember he won, I want to say 2019 or something like that. He won for one of his strains or one of his grows that year. And it just puts these guys on the map. And then all of a sudden they're getting deals, with other growers that want to sell other like dispensary chains or whatever it is that want to sell their flower.
And also it helps their local community because they could turn on some of their buddy growers to grow Lance on their farm so that they're able to help supply larger orders and get a more mainstream product out through distribution. And so when these guys come on and they win these awards, it is a big come up for them. And so they are able to leverage themselves into better business opportunities, or even in the case of Johnny, all this, like he just won a big, I think there was a collab he did, and they won an award at the California State Fair. He got a golden bear. I mean, and so all of that stuff, and I was really excited. I mean, it's kind of off subject a little bit, but to see the state fair like open up like that, and
right,
I thought that was really cool. And so for him to be able to have those kind of come ups, and even the come ups through the Emerald Cup, there's huge, because like we said, there's a lot of big guys. I mean, there's some heavy guys that walk that show, not just in the booth, but just walking around. And so if when you win, or they look at your flower and they see that you're crushing it, that can open doors and create a lot of opportunities for you. And so I wanted to talk about, kind of some of the categories, of course. They have their flour, they've got concentrates, they've got edibles, they've got different distinctions, of course. In each of the concentrates, they'll do solvent, solventless, tinctures, topicals, edibles. And I think that's cool that even the topical folks get a chance to come in and get some recognition and some love from the community, because I'm developing that It's Amazing. And I would be stoked to be able to enter my product in and maybe, have people get exposed to, the healing that it has to offer.
Yeah. Actually, on that point, I found their website. They have a categories page. It's pretty impressive. They've got solvents and hydrocarbon category for hydrocarbons. They've got for pre-rolls, they've got non-infused, solventless infused, solvent hydrocarbon infused, hemp wraps, and deluxe joints, which are 2 gram pluses. They've got for edibles, they've got sweet, savory, gummy beverages, beverage enhancer, and health conscious.
That's cool.
For this one I think is really cool. They've got a whole separate category for alternative cannabinoids. So for alternative cannabinoids, they have flower, cartridge, topical, basically all the different categories of products. They're going to award, one for the best with the, alternative cannabinoids, which I think is pretty neat, including hemp flower and hemp topical and hemp consumables, which is interesting too.
Yeah, and I think that's cool because I've seen high quality CBD flower be something that people are seeking. Because a lot of times when you go into dispensaries or even gas stations nowadays, the CBD flower that they have available is usually not of the greatest quality.
No.
And so very high quality CBD flower, I think, is something that people are definitely seeking out now more than before.
Oh yeah. Basically every CBD flower I've smoked has tasted like trash. Basically that you get, through those types of means, whether when I was in Ohio and I was visiting these like smoke shops or whatever, and they had flour and it just tasted terrible. It was horrible. So yeah, I'm with you. I think if people could actually find stuff that tastes good, which it should, it's the same plant. It just has CBD instead of THC. There's no reason why it needs to taste bad. Right. One of the categories that I'll mention too before we move on to the next part of the show, they have a best dispensary. So this is, just in California, but they have best dispensary. And dispensary that I could say they're like friends of the show because they've actually allowed us to have a booth there for free. Shout out to
Nice.
Brett up at in Fairfield with the what are they called? Bright Spot. The Bright Spot up in Fairfield. They've won the Northern California category for the Emerald Cup, and I hope they win again this year. And what that's really cool is it's recognizing a dispensary and a buyer in particular that really tries to get people access to the best stuff, you know, and it's not just the name brands. That's what I hate as a person that wants to try different things and is maybe not just interested in the top, you know, testing indoor flower or whatever it is. It's really hard to find stuff that isn't the big name brands. So a lot of the dispensaries, they carry Cookies and they carry Alien Labs and they carry some of these other really big names. And that's all. Where like the Bright Spot, I'm sure they have those brands, or at least some of those brands, but they'll also have a bunch of these Northern California growers or Southern California growers. A lot of these names that we've been talking about, like Ridgeline Farms and Huckleberry Hill Farms, they have all their stuff there. And so anyways, I think it's really cool that the Emerald Cup is able to give these people some recognition, and I hope it comes back to those dispensaries and rewards them for investing the time and the money basically to have some more variety, because it's like not all buyers and not all dispensaries spend the time to have this much variety, and also educate the people that work there as well about these different products. So I just think it's cool that the Emerald Cup recognizes these dispensaries for, you know, kind of going above and beyond.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. And then from a buyer's perspective, there's a lot of opportunities also at the Emerald Cup. If you are a serious buyer and you're looking to connect with some of these farms and place some larger orders, those opportunities are absolutely there. And that's kind of their gig, you know, that's kind of, especially in the past, because the timing of it was in December, you know, and so everyone would show up with their wares, and that's where a lot of farmers would be able to make their yearly income and make it to the next year's grow. And so a lot of those opportunities are there to connect with these farmers and you know, make larger orders if that's something you're definitely interested in doing.
For sure. Well, we're going to go into the like entertainment aspect of the Emerald Cup. So, of course, you know, it's like a festival. So they have to, it can't just be people smoking weed. They've got to have some other entertaining aspects as well. I'm going to mention real quick the lineup for this year, but we're also going to highlight, you know, some of the big names that have been over the previous, you know, 20 years of this show. For this year, they have Mr. Fab. He's a rapper from Oakland. And he was with, like, I think he was featured in a Mac Dre song back in the day. So you know, I think it's cool that them going to Oakland this year, they're going to get, you know, some artists from Oakland, some activists. That's really cool. They've got the Grouch and Eli, not familiar with those guys. Keek DeSneak, Femme Deadly Venoms. Are some of the music acts there that'll be there. And then we've got DJ Davey D. And then the MC, I'm going to throw it over to JR, and he can talk about the MC of the show.
Yeah, the MC is Ngayo Balaam, and he's, you know, this guy is a comedian, but he's also someone who's been active as an MC for cannabis events for years. I know that he did Hemp Fest. He did, man, what was the one we had? Hemp Stock here in Portland, Oregon. I mean, and this is a tiny little event. And he came and did MC'd for that. I got to meet him there at that event. And that was an opportunity again, where you get to walk up to someone and you get to shake their hand and maybe hand them a bud and thank them for, you know, their contributions. And I see him again at future at the Emerald Cup. You know, he's emceeing at the Emerald Cup, and he's doing it again. It looks like this year too. So I'm pretty excited about that. He's a great guy. His comedy is very cannabis centered. There was a cannabis comedy tour that he was a part of that was pretty popular. So yeah, he'll be doing that. And there's been some amazing artists who've showed up over the years. Some of them like Damian Marley. They've had Steel Pulse, Portugal the Man, Dirty Heads, of course. And then, of course, as a weed nerd, I got to shout out Mendo Dope, of course. They got to perform a couple times. It's always fun running into those guys there. The Roots also performed. So there's a lot of really cool bands that have shown up and shown support for the community and have played. I think it's going to be a good year. I'm excited to see some of the new artists.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It's going to be it's a good I'm just excited about the change up in space, change up in, a lot of changes this year in terms of time of year and all this other stuff. So I'm just kind of curious to see how that mixes things up and what it looks like this year. We should also mention too, in previous years, they've given away awards to people. I think they basically do it every year. They kind of have
honorary.
they have like an honorary like legend award. Do you know what the name of it is? I'll have to look it up. Is it the Cannabis Icon Award or something like that?
Yeah, it's something really cool. And they've had, Woody Harrelson, a lot of really, really cool, Willie Nelson, Be Real, people who are a face to the common or to the, mainstream people who represent our community, There's been some other cool folks. Dennis Perone was one of the special awarded guests. Steve D'Angelo for his contributions. Cheech Marine. Just some really cool cats that, our industry have recognized for their contribution to the West Coast cannabis scene.
Yeah, so folks, if you haven't already, if you're in the Bay Area, if you're in California, or you just want to take you find a cheap flight on Southwest or something like that out to Oakland, come on out to the Emerald Cup. It's going to be a lot of fun. It is, I'm going to pull up the date here just so, well, actually, I've got the graphic that I can put up on the screen. It's August 17th and 18th. At the Henry Kaiser Center. It's over in Lake Merritt. If you're from the area, just type that into Google Maps. You'll find it. It's in Oakland. We're really excited about it this year, obviously, as we've been talking about. We've got a great setup. We've got a booth that's going to be outside. We're going to deck out the booth. I've got a nice inflatable couch. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it is a thing.
I'm excited to see how that's going to work.
Yeah. The reviews were good on Costco, so I figured it could be a place for some people to chill out, because we're gonna have some friends there, hanging out with us, helping holding down the fort. Hopefully, friends like Soup. You said Soup might be able to come through.
Yep, Soup the Gardener plans on being there. Grambo from the Dude Grow show is going to be there as well. And then it'll be me, you, Jake the Ripper, and Uncle Jim. And we're pretty much going to be holding it down for cannabis. We got a crew.
That's really cool that Grambo's coming out. That's pretty awesome.
I know. It's fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, well, then, we got a inflatable couch for those guys. I got a couple nice camping chairs, which again sounds like an oxymoron, but I think they would be fun to do some interviews in there in the booth. And then JR and I both have cameras that we're going to be able to use to just walk around the show and film. We can also do interviews. I'm really excited about, thanks to the money that we had brought in from sponsorships and through our members community on Cannabis, we were able to spend some money on getting these cameras and getting this equipment that we're going to use at the show, or even just get these chairs and things like that, pay for the sponsorship of the Emerald Cup. Without all those things together, we wouldn't be able to do this year. Definitely wouldn't have been able to do it in previous years. So we're really thankful to everyone over at TikiMadMan, NeptuneSeedbank, Lost Coast Plant Therapy, SacredThreeMushrooms, all those guys came together to help us get to
Yeah.
the show this year. They sent us some stuff to give away. And then obviously our members only community, which you can use the code BUZZ for a free month in the community. If you want to jump over there, join it. We have giveaways. I just posted a link in there that you can put your name in and address in there, and I'm gonna pick a bunch of random winners. I'm gonna send some of these seeds to. I've also still got a Lost Coast Plant Therapy hat to give away, just things like that we're going to be giving away to our members only community as a thank you for supporting the show. So join us over there. But anyways, without all that support, we wouldn't have been able to show up to the Emerald Cup this year.
Yeah, I want to give a special shout out to Dirk at Lost Coast because I needed to get the booth shipped, and that's not cheap. And so he chunked out enough money for us to get everything shipped out. That's on top of all what he already gives us as a yearly sponsor. So having the support of these people to help make our dream come true and help serve our community to the best of our ability is paramount. And we cannot thank these people enough. They are the foundation of what our movement has been from the very beginning. And we hope to do justice by them and their support.
For sure. And we, the other thing is since we're not, both JR and I don't take dollars from cannabis, like we're not making personal income. We can also basically decide who sponsors and who doesn't, So we pick the people that we actually believe in. Because if we're just doing this for fun, I don't want to waste my time pumping some bullshit products or whatever it is. We want to talk about stuff that we actually use. So I'm actually using Lost Coast Plant Therapy in my garden on an ongoing basis. JR's used SacredThreeMushrooms. We've grown stuff from Tiki. We've grown stuff from Neptune. We have friends that have grown their stuff and believe in it. So we're not, not just taking on sponsors. So that's also meaningful to me too, that I know that if we hook you up with these various things, or we send you something, or we talk about it on the show, that these are, legit people, because we don't want to waste your time, especially when you're growing. You know what I mean? It's like you can't take back time. So if you just spent 3 months growing something or 2 months growing something or whatever it is, and it's bullshit, you can't take that back.
And we don't want to set people up for failure. If we're encouraging people to come online and become first-time growers and start being responsible for their own medicine, and we set them up with some janky ass shit that's just going to create failures for them, what justice or how have we served them? And how is that ever going to be meaningful to us as a reciprocation, I guess you might say?
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's leave it at that. Join us at the Emerald Cup. We are stoked to be there. We're hoping to make a splash this year. I've got these, I was testing this out last night. I've got these mic stands, so I can put the mics for our camera in here, and that we'll use those when we're doing the interviews. And I was testing the setup too, so with my laptop, I can hook all this up to my laptop, and we could live stream from the show to YouTube through my laptop. That should be fun. So check it out. I'm really excited to experiment some and just kind of go crazy, try some things from a live show in Oakland on, I'm going to put the graphic up there, August 17th and 18th. We hope to see you there at the 20th anniversary of the Emerald Cup. We've got JR Tokin, Unca Jim, Jake the Ripper. We've got Soup the Gardener, and Grambo, the co-host of Dude Grows Show, all there, and comedian as well. You probably, give him a joint. He probably won't turn down anything that you give him, and get him to tell you some funny jokes or funny stories. Grambo is always a good time. But all right. Well, let's see. I think that's about it. Any last words, JR, before we roll?
Just again, thanks to the Emerald Cup for inviting us to be a part of the family and be a part of this event. That's really huge to us. If you want to rock some cannabis gear, shop.cannabis.app. We do have some apparel that you guys can pick up and show some support. And definitely if you come up to the booth 443 and you shout growers love, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to give you something.
Sounds good. Well, we're going to roll out. I hope everyone has a great week, and we'll get this show up on podcast feeds. If you listen to podcasts and you'd rather, listen to the show, or you want to watch it on Spotify or something like that, search Cannabis on Spotify or on your podcast app. You could listen to the audio version of the show through your favorite podcast app. Or if you're on those platforms and you'd rather watch us on YouTube, join us at youtube.com/cannabis. We'd love to have your subscription over there. Like and subscribe, all the things that YouTube's a big platform for us in terms of how people discover our show. Because if you search, various terms like how to use recharge, our videos show up, and it's really important that you like videos and all that kind of stuff, because it shows YouTube that people like our stuff. But anyways, shout out to everyone in the Cannabis community. We had Solo, Breezy, and Cake showed up in the show, which is cool.
What's up, Solo?
Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Big Bad Badger, who also just showed up in the chat. Shout out to you guys. Huge thanks to everyone in the Cannabis community for supporting us and helping make all this stuff possible. Make sure, if you're in the Cannabis community, to enter our members only giveaway. It's a sticky post right up at the top of the app. Check it out. Enter in there, and you might find something in the mail later this month. All right, well, we're going to go and head out. Thanks, JR, for hanging out with me today. Hope to see you guys at the Emerald Cup. JR, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
It's going to be great. I can't wait, Q.
And as always, everyone,
Growers love.
Peace out, everyone.